Hello there. Good afternoon or evening or morning or whenever you're watching this. I'm recording this video at, what's the time now? 2:30 in the afternoon on Thursday, the 25th of October. If you don't know who I am, my name's Josh from racingtoprofit.co.uk. But I'm also a 10% shareholder in that beauty you can see in front of you called Really Super. And I thought for the first time, in my ownership experience, I suppose, with both the two I have shares in, I would kind of record a video um, that touches a few things. I like to record these things kind of straight up. I kind of never edit, so it might jump from place to place. And I won't promise to try and keep it short because whenever I do that, they go on forever. But I'll try and keep it succinct. So I'm going to flick through a couple of pictures just because I like doing that. And then I'm just going to do a shout out to some of the team at Amy's Yard, touch a bit on my experience so far, I suppose. Then look at Really Super as a horse and kind of what I've called Super's story, just to understand more from my eyes as a punter, I suppose, the journey she's gone on, and you can see the journey she's gone on through her form and her runs today, from when she had her first starts on the flat for Rafe Beckett. And then I'm going to move on to the actual race. And I will, when I'm tweeting this video or kind of advertising, I suppose, put the timings on. So if you want to jump to any one of those things or just want to jump straight to my race analysis, feel free to do that. I'll try and look at the race with neutral eyes, but it's always tricky, especially when that horse in front of you, Really Super, is on a hat trick and the penny is dropping. So I'll go on to that in a minute. What I thought I would do, I'm here on my Twitter thing. I don't want to look at that photo. I don't want to look at that photo, nor that one, nor that one. Oh, there's one. There's me. A few chins there. I think I need to get to the gym actually. I'm blaming the red wine and possibly some of the champagne I drink when trackside with the gang watching a girls' race. That's not Really Super. That's Blessed to Impress, who has won 3 times for us. She's been an absolute cracker. She's only a moderate handicapper, but we've had some great days out with her. I think the plan is to sell her in a broodmare's sale in early December, and she can go off and hopefully be a mother and produce a few more speedsters. But she's been great to own. And she's like Really Super, has settled down and matured with age, but I'll touch on that in a moment. What else do I want to picture? Oh, this one. That's me at Amy's Owners Open Day, which is a great day. She does that every year. I think there are over 150 guests there. This is one of the great experiences or upsides, I suppose, of having small shares in horses is days like that, trip to the races. And there is the whole social side, and with White Diamond Racing and with Amy Murphy, it doesn't really get much better. As many of you watching this may know, I live up in Liverpool. I have done since I came to study here in 2007. My family home is 10 minutes up the road from Newmarket, which is why when White Diamond found me on Twitter and said, "Josh, do you fancy some shares in some horses?" I was keen to dive in, knowing that my parents could get down there and I could go and see them, etc., when I was back home, so to speak. But this clearly, Amy is a fantastic trainer. She is brilliant when you're at the races, and when you're at the yard, for that matter. Her and her partner Lemos. Superb team. She is brilliant with us as a syndicate. We have so much fun. You can have a good chat, but I suppose these three, in terms of our horses, are the stars of the show, and I always think it's important to focus on the stable staff. On the far left, as we look, is Connor. Now, he has been with Really Super the last twice. He was kind of new, I think, to looking after her track side, and she's won her last twice. So we're all hoping he might be there tomorrow with a ready excuse if she doesn't win, if he's not there. Then we have Annie, who, yeah, Annie's there. She looks after, or has looked after, Blessed to Impress track side. And there's Seamus there. He's just an all-round good guy. I think he's head lad or travelling head lad or something. And I apologise if I've got that title wrong. But he is fantastic as well and knows his horse racing and his horses inside out. So we as a partnership have a lot to thank those three for. But that's enough, I suppose, of the pictures. What do I want to go on to now? Well, yeah, I'm just looking at a notepad. So I did make some notes just so I try and stay focused. Yes, really super. We'll go through her story. I've just jumped to Horse Race Base here, which is one of the kind of 3 or 4 sets of tools I use daily. What I wanted to just home in on, I suppose, to start with is her breeding. Cacique, I probably said that wrong, I'm not 100% sure. That's her sire. You can look through the form and the various kind of different winners he's had. He's had some good flat horses kind of in the 70s. Beach Break for Donald McCain, you can see if I kind of whiz down here. Oh, he's got a Ray guest there. Where is Beach Break? He's here somewhere. Yes, for Donald McCain. Now he's now up to 128, I think, or 126. Yeah, something like that. Buckle Street as well. So some good horses. Now, if I just click on his profile here, if I jump to National Hunt, you can see generally ground-wise, not many runs on heavy, but they seem to handle, generally speaking, all kinds of ground. Of course, it depends whether they've got the majority of their genes from their father or their mother, I suppose. If you look at the age here, with 4-year-olds, which really super is, and she's responsible for 2 of these wins now, 13 and 52, and actually 2 from 25 with 3-year-olds. So maybe they do actually take a little bit of time to mature. But you can see there are not many runners kind of as we get older. Only 7 in National Hunt at Cheltenham. Why am I looking down there? It begins with C up here, as you can see there. No winners yet at Cheltenham. I think it's about time we put that right. But the breeding side on that front's pretty good. You can see the dam. You might have kind of seen the dam stallion, Monsieur, Irish Derby winner, King George winner, Group Ones, both of those Group Ones, obviously, back in the late 90s. So there's some pretty good blood there, and sensationally, if I click on the mother, I'm just looking down here. Who she's produced, and various different horses, flat horses again rated in the mid 70s. A few here have kind of hit some heady heights of the 90s on the flat. So yeah, that's that. I mean, that's just a quick touch on the breeding front. But I suppose there was always hope, and when I look at her story and just kind of talk you through briefly, and I'll try and be brief, I've been talking for 8 minutes already, just trying to explain the journey she's gone on as a horse. Every single horse has a story to tell. Every single horse develops at a different rate. Some take longer, some are more precocious. I've jumped into the excellent Gigi's Gold, which you can take a 30-day trial for £1. Much better than the Racing Post, which I hardly use. But that's what I'm not here to kind of sell this bit of kit. But I use it daily in my own punting along with Horse Race Base. And a few other bits and bobs, but I want to click on really super here and let's just talk through some of her form. Now, as you can see there, we got her from Rafe Beckett. She's now rated in the kind of low 70s on the flat, given she's now 122 over jumps, and the rough equation you can do, depending on if you listen to the Racing Post or Time Form, I think roughly they say you can add 25 or subtract 25 to 40 pounds onto a horse's flat rating in order to get a rough guesstimate of their jumps rating. So on that basis, on the flat, she could be thrown in if we can ever find a race long enough. I keep banging on to the team, well, not the trainer, who clearly got far more sense than I have, but the 3 lads who run the syndicate, that we should aim for the 2020 Cesarewitch when she's 6 years old, over 2 miles, 2 furlongs on the Rolling Mile. The bottom rated horses in that this year are kind of mid-80s, I think, so she probably wants at least 2 miles 2 on the flat, and there's not many races like that. But I say that given that her flat form before is when she wasn't as mature or mentally developed as she is now. But I'm not here to talk about her flat runs, though having just said that, why there's hope within the camp, and I suppose why I have hope that there is much more to come one day, and how high she climbs up the ladder tomorrow, Friday's race, may help us kind of learn more on that front, I suppose. Is that she had some very, or she does have some very, very good flat form to her name, especially in her early runs for Rafe Beckett. In a certain bit of kit here, I can see the number of horses that have run since from races and the number of winners. And if you go down some of these races, some of her early maiden form, they absolutely threw out the winners, multiple winners after. Even, that Salisbury Class 5 handicap, the horse that beat her there, Brandon Castle, I think, is now rated, or is Archie Watson horse rated kind of 99 on the flat. Her third run of her life, she came a length and 3/4 third to Star Rock, who's a listed Group 3 winner on the flat, now rated 105 or something. God Given for Luca Comani was just in front of her that day. She's now rated in the low 100s, a Group 3 winner. Just decent form, which gave us all hope. And the boys pretty much sourced this horse, as they did, blessed to impress themselves. A little bit of help from Amy and others, but they did a lot of the kind of donkey work, for want of a better phrase, in identifying this horse as one on their shortlist. They wanted to have a go at buying at the horses in training sale. I forget how much she cost, 25,000. Which I suppose sounds a lot, but in the world of horse racing buying, it isn't. And given her form on paper, and the hope she had, or the promise, I suppose, that was there, that could be viewed as value for money, and it's starting to turn out that way. Now, the question we all had, having bought her, is, did she have the mental constitution to want to win? Because, of course, she hadn't won. What was she? A 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 race maiden. She'd placed a couple of times. She hadn't gone through with winning. So there were questions over, A, what are her ideal conditions? B, does she have the mental fortitude to put her head in front and actually to want to win? And until they win, that is always a question for any horse, I think. So you can see there, she had a first run for us at Fakenham, and I'm on 12 minutes, and I just want to rattle through some of these runs. That was the first run. We in the team, I think, took the view that this might actually be a filly, as she was then, that needed time just to develop and just to strengthen up. Of course, every yard's different, every horse is different, and she gave the impression, given her frame, that she might be better in time. Now, she ran at Fakenham, beaten by an okay horse, actually, in Cubs win for Mr. Kirby. And she hit the front there. Now, Fakenham's kind of 7.5 furlong greyhound track in terms of how tight it is. And she hit the front there looking like a winner, and we were all getting quite excited. But she did not have a clue what to do when she hit the front. She's looked around, stared about, kind of not pulled herself up, but it wasn't until Cubswin went past and she had some of the chase. She then got going again and was closing at the line, but Cubswin probably did it okay. As an aside, Fakenham is a fantastically run track. The clerk of the course makes you feel welcome. The owners and trainers' facilities are fantastic. So if you ever get a share in horse or have shares in horses, and they may be suited by Fakenham, I don't think really Super is, and now she's more of a galloper, do run your horse there in the right race. It really is a great day out, even though it is in the sticks in the middle of Norfolk. Well, not in the middle, it's near the coast, isn't it? And actually, I think known as the coldest racetrack in the country when the wind gushes in off the coast. Then we ran her at Leicester. Now, a week or so before that Leicester run, she had an abscess in her rear, one of her rear legs, back right, back left. Ingrowing, she had to spend an evening, I think, getting some prescription drugs at the veterinary hospital in Newmarket. Bloody expensive, by the way. Didn't even involve surgery. but that's the game. That's what you have to pay for these highly skilled vets to look after your horses when there's a bit of an issue. And she just ran flat at Leicester. Whether or not she not bounced a bit from that November run, I don't know. Whether she was feeling the effects of that minor injury at the time. We all expected much better. She was sent off 11-4 there, as you can see. We then ran her at Aintree, where the weather just turned. Obviously, I live in Liverpool. I was banging on the door. Through emails. Can we run her at Aintree? Let's run her in this race. Let's tilt at Windmills. But the ground went. She absolutely hated it. She pulled herself up there. Had plenty of horse left. She was just like, I'm not running in this. Why am I here? We then gave her some time off, some time in the field, strengthen up, grow, which she did. She put on quite a bit of weight. She grew into her frame. Her frame was still growing. It probably is still growing. I think a lot of jumps horses are still growing up to the age of 6 or so, aren't they? And then we thought, well, given the flat mark, given how those hurdle runs have gone, let's give her a spin on the flat, knowing which she was bought to go hurdling, that she would come back probably later in the year, later in the summer. She ran all right. That was after a break. She missed the start. She was a bit lit up. She was outpaced at times. She probably did need the run a little bit, I think, but they went kind of no sort of gallop and she blew the start. Lingfield again, she got shuffled back, outpaced, stayed on a bit, ran there as if 16 furlongs just wasn't enough on the flat. I don't think good to firm was a problem. I think fast ground is fine, but you never know. She might have been feeling the ground a little bit, and actually she might just want a little bit of give. But they were, I think a lot of us lumped on hard each way in that Lingfield, and she lost out third kind of near the line, which was agonising. She then simply bounced or blew out at Newmarket. We could tell before the race, when you go racing a lot, especially if you start to get an attachment to a horse, you start to build up how they look like pre-race and you get an idea of how they might run. She was really agitated. She was frothing at the mouth. She was sweaty. She didn't look happy at all. We think we ran her too quickly then, but until you do, you never actually know. And then pretty much after that run where she faded out again, we expected a decent run. It simply came too quick, we think. And from that point on, our excellent trainer came to the view that she probably does need at least kind of 4 weeks between races. And that's the rest pattern that we've stuck on since. Now, she then came back over hurdles and gave us a brilliant run. She was a decent each way price in the morning. In a race that's worked out okay. The front two were miles clear there, but that run gave some indication that we still had a niggle about whether she would go through with it mentally, because she looked like she would kind of have the win and have the leader sewn up. Now, the winner that day got a very easy lead. We sat kind of just off him. Or her, was it? I forget. And galloped. But after the last, she ducked in behind the leader. Didn't look, no, I wouldn't say she wasn't keen to go through with it. She just was a bit lost again, I think, in another situation where, the first probably situation where she might be properly upside a horse, kind of about to do battle. And I don't think she quite knew what to do. But all of the time at home and this race experience was kind of teaching her plenty, and the reports from home were after that second she came on leaps and bounds again mentally. Her work at home was improving on the gallops. We then ran at Worcester in a class 4, where we were all pretty confident she would run a good race. Again, I think she opened at 8s or something, or kind of decent each way price, and there's a few of our syndicate that like following our horses quite heftily. And she gave us the thrill of our lives there. When you own a horse or a share of a horse, however big, and it wins for the first time, it's hard to explain that thrill, especially when you're not 100% sure if they've got the mental fortitude yet or the kind of application to go through with it. And she went through with that. She somewhat dotted up. Jack started riding her 2 out. I was thinking she hit the front 2 out, 3 out. Jack started riding her. And we were thinking, or I was thinking personally, looking at it, thinking, is she stopping? Is she pulling herself up? Why is he getting so busy? But she stays well, and he was only getting her going. And she pinged the last, I think, in any way. She won pretty comfortably and galloped out all the way to the line in a way which suggested she could go round again. The boys then had in mind, and our syndicate, the three lads who run it, are very methodical, both in the horses they source. We've only got two, and I'll probably be that'll be the max I should think for the future. We'll try and keep. Um, uh, but they'd worked back that this same Worcester race, the Class 3 last year in 2017, was run by a horse called Haling's Comet, who was similarly rated, and then went on to run in this Cheltenham race that we're entered in tomorrow, Friday, at 3:10. And knowing that she needed a month between races, this race fitted in the programme quite well. We kind of thought, they kind of thought, sod it. It's a Class 3. We're not sure how good she can be yet. We know she's improving. She's got her head in front. Is she suddenly going to bounce forward again? Now, this Worcester race, she was 20-1 in the evening. She was 18-1 widely in the morning. I had a decent bet as owner's prerogative before I kind of looked at the race or saw her. I could tell, but pre-race in the parade ring, that she was going to go well. It's the most settled I'd ever seen her. On that win, 2 starts back, she was still a bit headstrong. Jack took her down to the start early. Brilliant horsemanship. And she looked an absolute picture. Amy turns out her horses very, very well. Their coats usually are just gleaming. You can see your reflection in them. She was calm. She looked a picture. She was race fit. There were a few in that race who looked like they needed it. The likes of the Martin Keithley horse, to my eyes, looked like she would come on for the run, and she reopposes again in this Cheltenham race. And the thinking was, in a higher class race, Jack had always said, well, in kind of recent weeks anyway, that he would think she may improve for a stronger pace and a faster gallop, which she still hadn't had. And we thought in this Class 3 she might get that. As it turned out, she didn't. It was an absolute crawl. Jack had her in the perfect place, and thank goodness. Now, someone who loves horse racing, blogs about it for a living, etc. The place you always want a horse, really, for me, in a jumps race is in the front quarter. Ideally, if you can train a horse, or they have the ability to either lead, dictate, and then kick, or sit kind of 3 or 4 back and then go and kind of show a turn of foot, or can wind up and gallop, you're always going to be in with a chance, or more of a chance for me, of having a competitive run. And of course, you're likely to stay out of trouble if you don't have too many horses in front of you. Excuse me. So they crawled round there. Now, I had no idea, and I'm not sure not sure anyone had much of a clue, that she had that turn of foot. She pinged the last. Jack gave her 2 or 3 taps, and she just went. And it's rare to see that, especially at the handicapping level, when you're not kind of grade 1, grade 2, grade 1 or grade 2 class. To have that electric turn of foot at this handicap level was, quite frankly, rather exciting. She put that race to bed pretty quick. Yes, it was off a slow pace, but she went there off 1:15. She was out of the handicap. She had, Keithley's horses 138 and third, who was staying on again at the end in a race that might not have been run to suit for her. And yeah, she put the race to bed. She won easy, really did win easily. She was not, she was finished the race, I think Jack said, kind of fairly fresh, and if she could probably keep galloping. So that's the story. That's where we've got up to. A horse that took time to strengthen, took time to learn about racing. And Amy's given her the time and a brilliant education at home. And the reports are she's stepped forward even further again after that win last time out, but she's just mentally getting better and better, and galloping strongly at home and working ever so well. So that all gives us excitement as we go into this race at Cheltenham, because we simply do not know how good she's going to be. Now, of course, there are questions here. There's the track. Clearly, there's 2 wins at Worcester. She is a stayer. Amy's convinced she's a galloper and she will stay, and we think, on paper at least, and what we know about the horse, she's going to relish this kind of test. And we're all excited because she hasn't had it yet. of her being in a race where they're going to go, well, I think they'll go a quicker gallop than any of her races to date. And she'll have 3 or 4 horses to track. Now, I will get on to looking at the race in a moment, but we could be lured into thinking her form isn't that strong. It was a crawl last time and then it was a dash. What's exciting for all of us as owners and connections, I suppose, is that we think she's going to be even better off a stronger pace because it will tap into stamina that as yet we haven't seen. And we think she stays. It's not impossible she wants further than this in time, but this will be the furthest she's run, I think, or certainly the stiffest test of stamina. So we get to learn plenty. And fingers crossed, obviously, always is the hope with any horse, whether you're betting on it, watching it, have a share, is that every runner and rider comes back home safe. And then you can simply enjoy the day, win, lose, or tailed off. So that's really super. I'm on to 25 minutes and haven't got on to the race, but hopefully you found some of those thoughts and my views there on her and the story kind of interesting, and you can apply some of that thinking to general race analysis of other horses. They all have a story, they all have a kind of progression that they can go on, and a reason. Most of the time there's a valid reason for why a horse has run as it has. And I'm happy to take any questions and go into every one of those runs Super has had for us. But I think I've pretty much touched on them all. So now we come to Cheltenham, and the first I'm going to say, I've ticked around the 25 minutes. Blimey. Right, we are on the old course. And of course, whenever betting at Cheltenham, you need to distinguish between the old and the new. So we've got, I've jumped onto Racing Post, which I don't use too often, but for the course map here, and you can see the old course there in the kind of light shades of green. It's more of a speed test, actually, than the new course, which is more galloping and more of an oval. And they rattle down this rather steep hill, come down this hill and have a shorter run in on the new course. So it can pay to be handy. It does depend how quick they go. I remember being at a preview evening, a Cheltenham preview evening that was happening at Aintree 2 or 3 years ago, and I remember doing a blog post on kind of what I learned that night at the time. And connections there, I think Charlie Longston it was who said, or maybe Warren Greatrix, said that horses can get going far too fast on this old course down this hill, and it can actually cap in massive fields. If they go a proper rattle, horses can do too much, and they get to the bottom of this hill and start to climb kind of over the last and have nothing left, and the closers can do better. So that's always something to bear in mind. But that's the old course, which we run over at this meeting. It can pay to race to be handy, but as with any jumps race, especially on decent ground, but any in generally, pace is so important and will obviously dictate how a race will pan out. And having mentioned pace, if I use the excellent pace maps here, so over this course and distance, you can see from however many runs we've had, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 races in this sample, in handicaps, you can see that it pays to race prominently. Look at the greens there. You want to be up there, and if I look at this pace map and the images here, you can see the group that are going to be held up or have done traditionally in their races. Clearly, it's hard to tell all the time if they'll keep to existing running patterns. So you can see those there. You can see the group that kind of like to be near the front. If I go on the data and use the pace map here, so a number 4 indicates that the horse made all the last time. A number 3 is that they settled just behind the pace. And then you've got the 1s and the 2s. A 1 is a held up horse. A 2 is a kind of held up, maybe in touch further back. So this group of horses here are going to hope that A, they go a fast pace, if they, of course, all run as they have done, or B, they might obviously have a bit in hand or have a touch of class and have a turn of foot, which does mean you can be a bit kind of, ride them a bit cold, I suppose, but you do need more luck the further back you are, as you can see from that. If I focus on really Super, well, she's going to have a perfect sit here. We'll see what Jack says in terms of before the race, and he is brilliant. Before the race, after the race, he is pretty much stable jockey for Amy Murphy and all the jumps horses. He's superb with his feedback and his thoughts and his homework. But there should be 3 or 4 horses in this who should give Super a lead, and hopefully, because of the class level it is, a 0 to 140, they'll go a bit of a rattle. But we know after that last win that actually, if it is a crawl, she has a turn of foot, and that is going to win her plenty more races down the line. I've no doubt about that. She shapes as if she might like a fence. She's big enough to go chasing, and those kind of 6, 7, 8 runner, especially mares chases, sitting second, sitting third, kind of kicking and going on a gallop. That kind of versatility with her tactically means we do have an exciting future ahead. And of course, she's not stopped progressing yet. But she should be able to sit behind the pace, and she is a strong traveller. I'm not in any doubt that if she's on her game, and I'll try and remember to tweet from the parade ring tomorrow, because I'll be able to tell how she looks, what she looks in her eye, her coat. You can get a pretty good feel for if she's on her game or not. She has been the last 3 runs. We'll know kind of if she's going to run a good race, but she should be in the perfect spot. That's what's exciting about this. She should be able to sit in the back of the front quarter. And then it's a question of, obviously, she's a very good jumper, especially at pace, and the faster they go, the better her jumping is. Then we have the question of, is she going to handle Cheltenham? Is she going to handle the undulations? Is she going to get up the hill? Is she going to handle going down the hill on that map I showed you here? Is she going to handle, no, not that one. Is she going to handle that? And then is she going to handle the climb? There's no reason to think she won't. Obviously, some of her training involves going up Warren Hill, I think, so hopefully she's used to a bit of a climb. So it's exciting. And if she doesn't handle the track or whatever, then we've got the likes of Newbury and Haydock and Aintree and Wetherby, and these kind of flatter tracks to look forward to. But fingers crossed, she's going to put in a good show. I am going to be surprised if she's not in and around the top 4 here for all of those things that I've just said, because, I mean, she's fit, she's in form, she's progressive. I think there's a lot more to come from this mark, and I think, personally, this race and the pace and etc. they may go may bring out even more. That's the excitement, because we don't know what her ceiling is. Like I said, as long as she comes back safe, we're going to have a great day out. And I'll mention the syndicate, a great bunch of people. There's 2 or 3 of my members have joined the gang. The guys that run it, Jay, Stefan and Tom, are top lads. Amy, of course, the team I've mentioned, but it really is an intimate syndicate as well. There's not kind of 40, 50, 60 people where you don't really know anyone. We have a brilliant, bloody good time when we go racing. And actually, almost I look forward to going racing and meeting up with the gang as much as watching the horse run. If I mention, I mean, I'm going on the 32 minutes here. I could go through every runner. I mean, clearly you can stop listening now, and if you are still listening, well, thank you very much. Again, the excellent GG's the Instant Expert tab, where I can, at the click of a button, look at a horse's form on the going class, the course, the distance, the field size. I can look at it with handicaps. I can look at code. Let's look at hurdles. So this will highlight handicap hurdles. Obviously, you don't get handicap national hunt flat races. So if I look at this, you can see there's a lot. I mean, green and orange is good, and there's a lot of green and a lot of orange, which suggests this is a very, very competitive race. Is it too deep for us? Who knows? We're untapped potential. You can see there, if I click on place, there's plenty of green. Soup has plenty of green. She's never run at the racetrack before. If I cast my eye to the right, I can look at the horses' handicap marks above their last winning mark. And positively, I think for us, we're in the same boat as many, in terms of they're going to have to do something new, and they're going to have to win from marks that are above their last winning mark. Clearly, some of these will be dropping. You can see here that Lugano Palace is back to his or her last winning mark, and the old boy Court Minstrel. He's interesting. I mean, I know he might be a bit regressive these days, but if they do go at pace, he might be interesting. And of course, he has course form over hurdles, but mainly kind of all some of that Well, yes, there you go. Sorry, I'm just rabbiting on. You can see there, so yeah, in all national hunt races, handicaps, non-handicaps, there are two course winners in the field. The Martin Keithley horse, I thought she'd come on for that run when we beat her at Worcester. Also, that race definitely wasn't run for her because she is a stayer. And will relish returning to this track where she's gone well and won before, as you can see there. So she's interesting off 138. But we have beaten her, so that gives us some hope. But yes, I mean, any number. I mean, I won't. I have looked at some stats and trends for this race. All the last 10 winners are all aged kind of 5 to 7, and in my members post, and maybe on the free post below, I'll go through these stats and trends and actually see which horses hit them as a shortlist when Horse Race Space has uploaded its cards for tomorrow. But 10 from 10 aged 5 to 7. Only 8 horses have tried this aged 4, and half of them were 20 to 1 or bigger. 6 of the 10 winners ran 16 to 45 days ago, so that's a positive for us. 6 of the 10 winners won last time out. That's 6 from 39 runners out of a total of 164 in the period, plus 28 to Betfair SP. 9 of 10 were top 5 last time out. 10 of 10 had 0 to 1 handicap hurdle wins. Now 2 only a 0 from 8, 30 places. That we're in that, really Super's in that band. They include the 2nd, 3rd and 5th from last year. All 10 winners to date have been sent off 12 to 1 or shorter. All of the last 10 have placed at least once on their last 3 starts. 9 of the 10 carried between 10 stone 7 and 11 stone 1, ignoring any jockey claims. Those carrying 11 stone 2 are 1 from 61, but there are quite a lot of them in this race. Well, the top 12 in the weights, but they're in the last 10 years are 1 from 61, but an average of 61 6 runners a year, so maybe this race is actually going up in quality a bit. There's a few more higher rated runners in here maybe. Those that had an official rating of 130 or more are 1 from 39, 9 places, so really it's a pretty open race. Top weights, an okay record in this actually. 8 of the last 10 winners had 0 to 4 runs in handicap hurdles, so really Super fits in that pretty well. 10 of the 10 had 0 to 8 runs in handicap hurdles. Again, so you're generally looking at a lightly raced horse in handicaps and handicap hurdles, kind of unexposed, promise of more to come. If I touch on trainers, Gordon Elliott's run 4 runners in this race, 2 have won, and a further one has placed, so both of his runners, he's got both of his runners in this race may be worth a closer look and an each way interest just because it looks like it's a race he targets. Other winners, he's the only multiple winner in this race. You've got Charlie Longson, Robin Dickin, Jamie Snowden, Nicky Henderson, Tim Vaughan, Alan King, John Flint, Lucinda Russell. So some smaller yards there. The big boys haven't necessarily dominated it, although you can see Alan King's got a runner there. So that, there's hope that actually, bar Gordon Elliott, this race has gone to kind of first-time winners. So hopefully Amy Murphy may be a first-time winner of this Brandon Hill Capital Handicap Hurdle. Now, I could talk through every runner here. I'd probably be here for a good hour in total. I've ticked around to 37 minutes. Twister's in great form. This horse is unexposed. It looks like he wants the mud. I mean, I suppose I could... I will focus on, you can just stop watching if you so wish. But we've got, he's more exposed actually. If I click on handicaps, again, another brilliant piece of this kit where I can just drill into all of these horses, all their form and all these different bits and pieces here. You can see there he's run well over 16. He has to prove he stays. It might be now that he's aged 8, he might have developed a bit more, possibly, although that might be a stretch of things. But he's generally been best in the slop, and he looks best kind of 16 furlongs in softer ground. So he does have stamina to prove. That race at Killarney last year, he ran a little bit as if he might not have got home. So that's a test for him. Big weight as well, and it's his first run of the season. And Twister is 0 from 6. 0 places or 1 place in this race. Hopefully he needs it. Hopefully he looks a bit tubby pre-race. And the new, I think, is interesting for Johnny Farrelly. Lightly raced. You can see here, been running well in novice hurdles, ran well under a penalty. there's a fitness question, but he's been pretty consistent, and they must have thought quite a bit of him because they pitched him into Cheltenham's bumper and Aintree, and he ran pretty well in both of them. So that's very, very interesting, I think. As is he's unexposed and he's doing something different in the fact that he now steps up in trip, and he was staying on in those last few runs. So. I don't know what prices are yet, but maybe that one is a danger for us and really Super's chance. I want to look at Johnny Farrelly's record with horses returning after 60 days or more. You can see that record. It's actually not too bad in handicaps, in handicap hurdles. At the course, well, he hasn't had any yet. You can see there, I mean, I can flick through different things. The pre-race might tell me plenty and tell us plenty. The booking of Sean Bowen is always interesting, and he is a jockey just to keep on side all season and forevermore. I think he always has a horse in the right place. He likes to be aggressive. He likes to race them in the front third, front quarter if he can, and the horse has the ability to do so, can race and has learned how to settle. He wears a hood. Whether or not he'll be a bit fresh, whether or not he stays, it'll be interesting. But and the new might be an interesting each way little play. Tim Vaughan's got a horse in form, stayed on well. I don't think stamina will be a problem. Again, a bit more exposed, but not overly raced. I mean, this is only his 6th handicap hurdle run. Comes here in form. Voodoo Doll's a pretty good yardstick, in fairness. Is up £8. Alan Johns is back on. I don't know if Johnson would have had the choice or not, but he's going to have to improve again. Tim Vaughan got the monkey off his back meeting last year, didn't he? Because he was 0 from like 55 or whatever at Cheltenham before. Decent training. The yard have been going all right. And there seems to be doing well. He's fit. He's a last time out winner. Stamina won't be a problem. You've got the likes of Lavelle horse, more of a chaser, I think. Again, we'll see if he needs to run. You've got the Elliott horse, who's been running over 16, 17 furlongs, couldn't win at Perth. Is he a summer horse? I can hope he's a summer horse. I don't think really Super's a summer horse. I think she's better than summer jumps racing, but she doesn't want kind of knee-high, hock-high mud. Soft should be okay, but kind of this time of year and next spring might be when she's best. Court Minchler, I've touched on the old boy. He, his handicap mark's okay. I mean, it is dropping because he's getting old, isn't he, the old legs? But he ran well there after a little bit of a break at Chepstow. He was staying on at the end. Maybe this has been a plan. Adam Wedge is back on. If I look at Cheltenham, he's run all right off 144 last May at Haydock there. You can see Cheltenham. I mean, these are all in pretty kind of high-level non-handicap races. He's a decent horse. I mean, he is held up out the back, but he's fit. We know he handles the track. Stamina might be a little bit of a question, is it? Is he going to stay 21, 22 furlongs? Let me just have a look at his wins. Well, no, this would be the furthest he's ever stayed, actually. So asking an 11-year-old to do something new is pretty tough, but he's interesting. But there's a reason, if I look through my really super eyes, why he might be up against it. Melody of Scotland's interesting for Alan King. I mean, if they got aims of the festival in time, you need to be higher than 130 to get in the handicaps these days, don't you? I think kind of mid 130s to ensure, or high 130s. As they're very competitive these days. But this is an interesting horse. These are just his UK runs, obviously. I should say, has been running as if she will stay on and relish a trip. Pulled hard. Looks like she's taken time to learn to settle, learn to race. Which is why, pulling hard at times, running in snatches, and then it makes sense that they would hold her up the next time at Plumpton and maybe run her over 16 furlongs. They were thinking if you have a horse that's keen, dropping them back in trip where they might go a faster pace can help them to settle, so that's always interesting. But she does run as if this kind of trip and this track might suit. Again, a 4-year-old though, as is really Super. And Alan King, look at that. These report snippets are brilliant within GG's. Distance move, and Alan King the last few years steps horses up in trip. I think it's by 20% or more, these, or down from their last run. You can see that record when he moves horses in distance. The main man in terms of for the owner is on board. A Melody of Scotland might be of interest. We've got a 9-year-old for Mr. French Davis. I want to see, I mean, he's lightly raced enough, I suppose, but nothing that would kind of send me scared, because he's a class 4 horse and he has to prove that he's up to class 3, and has got the break to overcome. I want to click on the trainer. What's his record with horses returning after a break? 60 days or more. Not too bad, in fairness. Looks like he can ready them, especially in hurdles. So that's interesting, and he does like winning, and horses that like to win are never a bad thing. So that might be an interesting one for an unpopular or small yard. Might ensure his price is decent. We've got another Gordon Elliott inmate here, Dennis O'Regan. You'd see that not as a negative, maybe as a bit of a positive. He's based in Ireland these days. He's come over for the ride. He has a good style for Cheltenham, especially if they go too hard, because he can settle a horse. He's a bit like the Jamie Spencer of the jumps racing. Get them settled, get them breathing, make sure they finish off their race. This one's 7. He won last time out. He stayed on over 16 furlongs. I mean, flatbred, or had been running on the flat like us, I suppose. So again, another one that has stamina to prove. Whether or not he is up to that's going to be the question, but you wouldn't say he's had many goes. I should say. And you never know. If I look here, well, it says soon no extra there, so hopefully this is a horse that doesn't see out this distance. That would be nice, so we can cross him off the list. But a last time out winner, Gordon Elliott, we know his track record. Good tradition, McCain, they've been going okay, but again, is this a summer horse? Been running during the summer, stepped up at Kelso, weakened there. A bit of a question mark. McCain's been going okay, but 0 from 18, 5 places the last 14 days. Lungano Palace for Fergal O'Brien. And now I'm looking at all of these for the first time, so that's why I'm kind of jumping about if this will load. What have we got going on here? 33 runs in his career, lots of those on the flat for Mr. Gallagher. O'Brien's got him now. 16 furlongs, ran on well easily, then into some novices, ran on stoutly. I mean, this horse might stay pretty well. Looks like this trip might be ideal, actually, or is interesting over this. Fit, last time out winner. There's a lot to like about his chance, possibly. I mean, I'm building up the impression here that this is a rather competitive race. And if Super does manage to get in the top 4, I think clearly we'll be cock-a-hoop. And you'll probably hear me cheering from wherever you watch the race, which I assume you'll all be doing. First assignment. Will he need the run? Ian Williams had a few runners in this race without any successes yet, but again, another lightly raced one. A horse that's in the could be anything category, ran in a decent race there at Sandown. This ground would probably be a question, but they've declared on it. There's a good covering of grass. They must think it might be okay, but that's a question for first assignment based on his jumps runs anyway. There's a lot of horses in here that have had runs. You would think this might go to one that's kind of race fit, but you never know. Mellow Ben, I'm not quite sure if this is good enough. He's one that's going to be held up out the back. Can be a bit gassy, I think. Fell when last seen, so a question there, but the yard's in form. Viva Leroy for Tony Carroll. Another one fairly lightly raced, but again in form. Won his last 2, hacked up last time. I mean, this is no Stratford, but obviously I'm saying that about Super, as in this is no Worcester. But a horse that's fit, in form, has gone up £9. You would think, hopefully, there might be something, given he's a 7-year-old, that might be a bit more progressive, such as Really Super. We've got, what else have we got here? Roy de Dubar, yes, this one. What have we got? 11 runs. 2 wins again, so there's quite a few lightly raced horses in here where you're not going to fall off your seat if many of these do something decent. Christmas in April. Hopefully it's Christmas in October for us, but Again, another lightly raced one, another last time out winner who was doing his best work late when last seen over 21 furlongs at Warwick. Just that kind of running style alone would make you think that maybe this kind of trip and track would do all right. Has changed hands as he left Nicky Henderson with Colin Tizard again. Will he need the run? But that's an unexposed one. If he's fit and raring to go, that would be interesting. You would think Trans Express is a bit too exposed and isn't quite good enough. A bit of a class 4. Well, no, he's won at class 3 in fairness. Might want softer ground, but I say that having looking at it for the first time, won on decent ground. Ran in this race last year, race fit, off 112, fifth, beaten 16 lengths. You would think needs to step forward again. So I've ticked around the 50 minutes. That's the longest video I think I've recorded for quite some time, but hopefully you've found something of interest there. That's a quick flick through. There are quite a few interesting horses in this. It's probably easier to mention the ones that might struggle a bit or have more questions to answer, but then even some of those kind of will have some sort of chance. So this is a competitive race. You can look at the number of last time out winners, the number that arrive here fit, in form. Many of these haven't had many goes in handicap hurdles. This could be a decent race to follow for the level throughout the kind of next 3 months, maybe, because it looks deep. So I'm not going to go there expecting a win for Really Super. I'm going to go there excited, full of hope and expectation, actually, that she's going to run a very, very good race. And whether we shall see whether a stronger pace, big field, this track, this trip, finishing up a stiff climb, whether or not all of those factors bring out more. That's the exciting bit, because we haven't reached her ceiling yet. I'm hoping that she's going to be in time a kind of mid 130s, high 130s horse. That would be Dreamland. But it's kind of in Dreamland already, I suppose. She's won 2 for us. She's going to win over fences. She's going to be chucked in one day on the flat if we ever send her back there and find the key. In terms of that discipline, but she's a much kind of stronger, bigger, mentally stronger horse than when last running on the flat. So all of that is quite interesting. She's going to be in the right place. Tactically, there's not going to be an excuse with how this race pans out. And all I can do is fingers crossed that every runner and rider in this race comes back in one piece, and I will, if that is the case, have a very, very good day out with the gang. You can follow any progress on Twitter. I'll try and kind of tweet some various things from the parade ring if I remember and aren't too excited. But this promises to be Dreamland. This dream keeps, well, it's kind of never ending at the moment. We've been very lucky with the 2 horses. We've had 5 winners so far. Hopefully she's kind of 12 to 1 or bigger, and with 4 places to aim at is going to be a decent each way price. And God help my bank balance if she is, because some of us might have done quite well with her when she won last time out at Worcester. But yes, there we go. That's 51 minutes. I hope you found various parts of that little video interesting. That's my own, not the views of Amy Murphy or Jack Quinlan, or officially the White Diamond Partnership. Everything I've said about Really Super there and the race are the views of Josh Wright and Josh Wright only, and are there clearly to be shot down. But I'm excited, and that's how I view this race. That's how I view her moving forward. So thanks for watching. Fingers crossed for tomorrow, and I'll be back again at some point. But yeah, have a great weekend and happy punting. This is Josh from Racing to Profit saying thanks for watching, and until the next time, bye for now.